Welcome back to the evolution of South Asian music. I'm Roochay.
And I'm Akhila. In the second part of our live conversation from South by Southwest Sydney, we are taking a closer look at India's music industry as an export market.
We'll unpack how and what you see on streaming often differs from the on-ground reality, and what that means for artists and audiences.
We'll also dive into India's live music scene, the untapped potential in the college market, and how international artists can build meaningful traction here.
Plus, along with our guests, Jade and Jashima, we share real case studies and insights on the opportunities and the challenges of entering one of the world's most exciting music markets.
So let's get into it.
Let's talk a bit of a charts here as to what's happening in the market. Akhila, actually, again, because this is your every week's job, literally.
Yeah, the one that doesn't pay me anything, but it pays in fun.
And it blesses us with, it pays us in the numbers and having
Thank you for your
having the
report.
chart positions. Obviously, you run the Indian Music Charts podcast, especially with one of our leading music journalists, Amit Gurbaksani.
One of the last few left.
Yeah, and some of those really guys were like precious to us. What is the story on the charts, right? Tell us what's happening on the charts and probably or what's happening on the ground. Is it really?
You would often assume that if something is being streamed, that's also what is being consumed from a live perspective, and India will just confuse you on this front. But let's first start with the charts, okay? And I'll give you 2024 numbers. So what we typically do is at the end of every year, we look at Spotify and Apple's top 100 songs or top 75, whatever they put out, with the general information available to everybody. And we do this exercise of, sorting it by genre, by language, also by labels to see how much is from labels, how much is independent. So by the end of 2024, 50% of the charts were Bollywood releases. Okay? And on Spotify, pop, or which they rather see it as iPop, that was 38%, which makes sense because it's a very big focus for the DSP in the market, right? Hip-hop was about 8%, and Mollywood, which is basically the Malayalam music industry, was at 2%. It was essentially one movie that did extremely well and that did well across all kinds of listeners, not just Malayalis. This was Avesham. Now, the same year, when you look at Apple, Bollywood is a little lower on Apple. It's 42%. And pop is about 40%, but hip-hop is 16%. And if you remember, on Spotify, it was 8%. So hip-hop tends to over-index a little bit more on Apple, right? And Mollywood stays at 2%. Over here, it's the same movie. And now we also do this at a mid-year. So in 2025, when we did the same exercise, film had actually dropped on Spotify to 42% from 50%. So what's actually happening is there is space being created for music outside the film ecosystem. So iPop saw growth. It went up to 53%, and hip-hop a little lower than even last year, 5% on Spotify. And this is what is happening on the charts. This is what is being listened to. But what's happening on ground? Rock and metal.
Finally.
Yeah, I know. I love that there are these eras. I grew up in the metal era, and with very bad production, whatever was available. The college would give you 60,000 rupee budget, and they're 3 days music festival, whatever you want. Jili apni zindagi types, right? And
Can I give a shout out to your Flaming Skull
podcast? Yeah, which is a podcast that we started 17,
way
18
before the
years ago.
podcast term
There was
really existed.
There was no means to distribute back then, so we had to make a website and upload it over there. And we also had this little map to show where the people were coming from. And it was so nice to ooh, someone from the US wants to listen to this, about Indian metal. But that was 17 years ago. Wow. But then rock and metal kind of had its, the low phase, right, where EDM really picked up in India. But now it's back. This year we had Green Day headlining Lollapalooza. Yeah. We have obviously Linkin Park coming next year. A lot of Australian artists actually too, North Lane recently toured. Carnival, again, another band that just deserves an Aadhaar card at this point. Right?
Very been loyal to the country, yeah.
Glass Beams right before this. Again, but they're more electronic live. Again, and electronic is still another genre that's doing really well. Techno's grown quite a bit. Eric Prydz was also playing very recently. Like all the major festivals like DGTL, Anjuna Deep, all of them have some kind of presence or the other in India, and they do this every year, right? Hip hop is huge, and for us, it's a lot of Desi hip hop. But Rolling Loud is coming to India, so which is huge. Pop is another usual suspect, but like we don't have too many large-scale pop arena tours. We did have Coldplay, but we've not seen Taylor Swift yet. Just, in case she's listening. But where there's an interesting opportunity on that side is actually on the mid-scale. So you're like 4 to 5 shows, club shows, 200, 300 capacity, maybe going up to 500, which were actually like Matthew did, right? And that's an opportunity that often gets overlooked. But huge opportunity over there. Even like, for example, Love, who we worked with like together, I think his first gig had maybe 1,500, 2,000 people.
Yeah,
right?
those like famous studios, Mumbai.
Yeah, right. And so like in like venues like Humming Tree, Blue Frog, these all are making a comeback. So that size audience, there's a real opportunity over there. Also, you can't ignore like the college festival market in India.
Yeah.
So typically for anyone who's like listening to this later or for the audience over here, all of the big colleges, typically engineering colleges, because, brown parents are like, go be an engineer or a doctor. So even the government is like, we must support the dreams of our parents. So they set up something called the IIT, which is the Indian Institute of Technology, NIT, which is National Institute of Technology. And then they realize that once you do engineering, you need to talk to people, and they don't teach you that. So they're like, let's also start Indian Institute of Management, right? And these are just like the top universities, and these put together are about like 75, okay?
Yeah.
And each of these have their own college festival, which will typically run for 2 to 3 days. And they would have a Bollywood night, they would have like an independent music night, and they would have an international music night. So that's actually 75 opportunities, right, for artists to be playing live. So that's something that you really cannot ignore, and none of that is reflected on the charts, right? And Bollywood, that you see 42%, 50% last year, that interestingly is not the biggest part of live in terms of the volume of events, right? You will have your, Arijit Singh doing a tour. Of course, it'll be like 10,000 capacity across multiple venues. But can I find a Bollywood event every weekend? No. Can I find a rock or an electronic event? 2,000% yes. And so yeah, that's kind of how
In
it
fact, to
differs.
just add to that, that college part that you mentioned is such a lowest hanging fruit there, and massive potential, because the last year numbers said that there were almost close to 350, 400 college festivals just across the country, right, in a year. And
like the 75 number was just the top colleges.
And the whole India would be like really massive.
Yeah, and imagine for our population, like how many colleges we need.
Exactly. Plus, we also, we put in some numbers. Last year itself, there were like 30,000 shows that happened across the country. The hungriest in the market right now is outside the metros, like the tier 2 and 3 cities like Lucknow, Indore, Jaipur. They are like deprived of having these live experiences, and that's where they are craving for it all the more, which is what opens your doors to just not looking at India from a metro lens, but also looking at these trigger cities where the consumption is as high as possible that we spoke about. From a diaspora lens, actually, as well. And Jashima, I'll bring you in here. Just speaking to a friend yesterday that we were having dinner with, and Sam here in Australia, and Diljit is performing next weekend, which is obviously sold out. And it's wild to think that somebody like him is now playing to 27,000, 28,000 people in Melbourne, in Australia, and then 22,000, 23,000 in Sydney. The biggest show of his was last year in Vancouver, I think.
Yeah, Scotiabank Arena.
Which was 54,000 people. The biggest ever for any South Asian artist outside India. What's happening on the live sense here? Like, do you see that is Punjabi like your go-to driver for shows, or like do you see this happening across like other languages in live as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Live is interesting because I think it's where the reality and range of human preference exists in our cultures. So similar to India, what you see streaming Punjabi music is a unique case where what you see streaming is also what's doing exceptionally well live. But even that, if we look at Live Nation just did Breaking Borders Festival in Malta, right? They brought a very Western festival style experience with a predominantly Punjabi lineup to Malta. The DJs on that sold out are not massive on streaming platforms. They're not huge producers. Some of them are becoming more well-known, but you have folks like Balti and Rajuju Brown, and that is a product of cultural communities that are regionally really attached to each other. If you come to America and you're like, I'm South Asian and I want to do a tour, you'll plug in with like 19 different subculture communities and they'll sell you out 5,000 person rooms. And you're like, where did that come from? This person has 234 followers on Spotify. And it's because they consume in real life now. And video content, which is huge in India, is actually also huge with South Asians in the diaspora. So their form of representation is often, I see someone who might look a little bit like me in this visual on this Instagram reel or this TikTok or this YouTube reel. And maybe that feels like being in community to me. So let's go to that party that's happening at that cafe, or let's go check out that set at elsewhere.
I think what the large context that we've really understood is there's a lot of opportunities, right? Whether you're thinking about South Asian music as the market in India or the diaspora outside, who, as we now famously know, are just regular people, and you can approach that market just the way you approach anyone else. What I want to ask all three of you this, right? Like, of course, there are opportunities with this market. There are also certain challenges. So let's maybe dive into that. Jade, maybe we can kick off with you because you have the perspective of being on ground. I'm sure now that it's Matthew's top market, you want to think about it again.
Coming
so
back
like,
again,
yeah.
And I think this probably relates to a lot of people in the audience that are listening from an Australian standpoint as well. We have a very robust grant system here in Australia now that helps artists get out and tour. So for us, we kind of started with accessing, there's not just for artists, but for managers specifically. There's the international conference contribution grants as well. So I accessed that, went to market without my artists first, got a lay of the land, met people on the ground.
You went for a conference first,
I
right?
did, yeah. That was at the begining of this year. So everything's happened in very quick succession.
Yeah, I think Feb this year.
It was February,
India International Music Week,
yeah.
This year's been going on for a really long time.
I know,
Really long.
So accessing funding to do those things, and then there's, depending on what state you're in, there's state grants, there's federal grants as well to get artists into market. I accessed a lot of that. Then the other thing was, I think from the challenges standpoint, I think that there's a misconception that India, the infrastructure is where it was 10 years ago, and it's not. It's come a long way in 10 years, and you still have to be very fluid. It's a very chaotic country, and so touring there is not the same as touring in most places. You have to be fluid and trust your team. We had a great team with Scalebox, and actually one of the things I love most about it was we had, through no fault of anyone, we had a visa issue with one of our guitarists. She couldn't get in. We actually ended up having to hire a guitarist on ground. And to Royden's credit, he was amazing. And it was so nice for the audience to see a local person on stage with Matthew. And he also gave us so much local knowledge, like something that we would never have known was that when the Indian audience shouts once again, they want you to play the same song again. Which doesn't happen anywhere else.
Really? I feel like that's the most normal thing everywhere.
Like
That's
such
an
a
Indian.
regular
It's like yelling
day.
encore.
I learned something about India today.
It seems like such a regular day.
Yeah,
Like,
totally. And the other thing as well that I will say as well, and we do this with every country that we go to, is the Australian consulates on ground in every territory. They are super welcoming. They want Australian artists on ground in India. They're there, if you don't have a label, they will help you find PR moments and people to talk to, reporters, journalists, outlets to talk to. Sometimes they can contribute money as well, but at the very least, they will connect you with people on the ground. So I would say for Australian artists, that's
And I think that's
integral.
very exciting from an Australian perspective because you have this ecosystem available to you.
I'm just getting my jaw dropped thinking we're talking about like grants and
Yeah.
like all of the things.
Yeah, what is that?
I know, like financial help. What?
But rightfully so. India is a market the whole world should want to culturally competently
Yeah.
tap into and invest resources into. And I think gone are the days of Indians auditioning for the West's approval or interest. And if the West is interested in going to market in India with music, a lot of the things they can do are to partner with incredible companies and executives like all of you and our friends, but also things like the tier 2 to 6 cities, I think, are so undervalued. And would you go to another country as a tourist and not learn how to say 5 words in their language? And when we consult with music corporations and companies, my first question is, if you're a tech platform, what does your tech look like when it's adapted to Indian cities? Does it have regional language tools? How do people ingest beyond the term world music? And what does that mean? And so I think there's so many opportunities to go to market really well in India, and they involve allocating the same financial, labor, intention, resources to humanizing Indians as you would any other market. You all have flown across the world to come to Australia to talk about India. And I think it's so cool for artists to consider, maybe I do an exploratory trip to India before touring there. Maybe I go understand what that's like. We've normalized in the West, like if I'm from London, I'll fly to New York. If I'm from New York, I'll work 6 jobs and fly to London. But maybe it's time to fly to Bombay.
Yeah, no, that on-ground investment is so unparalleled, right? Because like so many conversations can't be planned. And to Jade's point about like how chaotic India is, it literally can take you anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour to move 500 meters. And a lot can happen in 500 meters when you're sitting in a cab with someone having a conversation. Like opportunities are created on ground, right? And of course, when there are systems like grants, etc., it becomes a little bit easier to fund it. Or to Jashima's point, please self-fund it. But because of the very huge digital ecosystem in India, there also may be some things which I think an artist can do if they don't yet have that money to enter the market, or from a digital perspective. What do you think?
Actually, that's something which probably should be the first mover strategy, because obviously not everybody has the opportunity of really physically being in the market. India really can't afford to bring in any of the artists, based out of anywhere in the world easily overnight. Usually, they have to be in the region, or like how Jade said, being supported by the local territories, government bodies. Otherwise, it becomes really difficult for the market. But what on the flip side, as we heard initially, how the consumption really plays into role. What that means is internet is your playground, and it's a big playground. You cannot ignore the fact what YouTube, a mammoth it is in the country. It is the number 1 market for YouTube. Just for data perspective, we are 550 million active users on YouTube itself. Comes in way, way ahead on the second and third. Second only being US, which is at 275 million. And third is Brazil, catching up at like another 200 million. So you can see the distant of where the YouTube consumption is. And what that means is YouTube Shorts is your absolute go-to thing for your short format. Let me make a note here. There is still no TikTok in the country, which...
For now.
Well, but it is
might
interesting
be
because that
something.
corridor is true, that an artist will pop off with the South Asian diaspora on TikTok, and then suddenly Roochay will text me and be like, is this person really epic abroad? Because it's found its way into
Can
Reels.
you check TikTok and let me know?
Always
so-
you write to like Jashima saying, how is this artist in like doing it?
Yeah, that drip is true. That connection we do have between the subcontinent and the diaspora, that if enough people discover something on TikTok, they're now creating Reels or YouTube Shorts or things like that. We run ads on all of our South Asian and non-South Asian talent to their top 5 cities in India on YouTube constantly to build their Indian ecosystem out.
And that actually explains, right? Because and YouTube itself wants to build an ecosystem, right? They don't want you to leave the app. They want you to be on Shorts. They want you to upload Shorts every day. They want you to go to long format. And that's how it's defined very clearly into how I would say a Shorts is a hype plus eyeballs plus reach. But a long format is more like trust, relationship, and getting the super fandom, right? So it caters into a big funnel to like top-down funnel where you can build onto the fans, use YouTube ecosystem as much as possible. Secondly, like how Jade said, making covers really, really help into the market. And the covers are something that is beautifully done if you have nuances of the market as well. So if you have a basic even understanding of what the different languages are, like Akhila said about whether you want to dive into Punjabi or Tamil or Hindi, and then when you tap into those artists, and the beautiful relationship happens between an artist and the creator. Like last year we got one of the artists, Australian artists, Oliver Cronin in India. And actually he hopped on one of our biggest Hindi song called Ishq Hai, which is the first ever #1 song on Spotify India Top 50 to go from an OTT web series, OTT as in the over-the-top...
Such an Indian term which we
such an Indian
realized.
term. Over-the-top video streaming platform, which is Netflix in this case. And he gave an English verse on it. And who would have thought, but it sounded beautiful and magical, and that cross-pollinated fans into a lot. Cut to story, 8 months, 10 months down the line, we actually created a whole reimagined version of it called Ishq Hai, which translates to This Is Love, and that's what it is translated to. And actually got UK 90s R&B icon Craig David on it, and produced and remixed by Armin van Buuren, again, one of the godfathers of the trance music. So,
And I'm sure because of these projects, these artists from outside India would have seen a significant growth in the Indian market without actually even being there.
it was literally like a first move advantage for them, because even for them, this is the first ever collaboration they want to do. But obviously, they want to do with something that creates a pop culture moment.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So it became a first for them. What helped us is we've never seen top 5 markets outside the diaspora markets. You look at the charts right now or the streaming data right now, number 2 or outside the India and then the diaspora markets like Pakistan and like USA, you still have Canada sitting at number 4 and you have Mexico sitting in number 5, which wouldn't have been possible for any Indian music or South Asian music in a way. And that actually created a great collaboration over a long term of 10 months and 12 months. And that's the ideal timeline that you should look at. But when you're coming into the market, these are some of the basic things that you should really pay attention to the fans as well. Try and see what the Indian fans are telling about you under your comments. If they are posting something about your content on short format like reels and shorts, please repost it. I mean, one of our artists, Sanju Rathod, he literally accepts every collab post from the biggest creator. And that's like the biggest validation that you have on the reels,
And I
because
think
everybody wants to hop
people
on.
see how you interact and react to people. Even if it's like, for example, you comment somewhere and I see the artist reply back to you. I'd be like, oh, it's like an artist who's actually really engaged. And even though I may not be engaging directly with this person, it forms a certain image of who they are. And also, dude, sometimes the comment section is unhinged, and like I sometimes don't even watch the video. I'm like, let me see what funny things
You
people
know, I'm
are
like,
saying.
this is where I want to
I'm
be.
here for the comments.
I know. And like, sometimes you post some random shit in your comments and then like kind of blows up and you're like, this is my greatest moment. I wrote, ooh, cat should have been here, and that thing gets like 10,000 likes, and I'm like, this is honestly what I live for. But yeah, but underrated, right? How are you engaging in your comment section?
So
with
Indian
some-
fans are so proud. It's the best thing in the world. If you have Indian fans, it can be intense also. But you're like, wow. They don't give a shit about, can I say that on the podcast? Looking
You can
cool.
say whatever you want with adults.
But they're just so happy to be there. If they love you, if they only know the 2 lines of Rema's Calm Down, you better believe that it is the greatest moment for
They
those
probably
2
said
minutes.
once more 10 times in that concert.
Yeah. The crowds there felt to me when we were on the ground, it was like what the early 2000s in Australia felt like. Everyone was there to have a good time. Everyone's partying. It was unhinged.
Yeah, it's the best.
It's really unfiltered and raw at the moment.
Yeah.
COVID for us, because like COVID ran really long for India, because like population's really huge, right? So the chances of communicable diseases blowing out of hand was very high. So like we literally had to be home for 2 years, where many other markets kind of opened up a little bit bit in 6 months.
Yeah.
And I think the initial thought was, oh, maybe this is like a sense of revenge fun. It'll last 6 months. No, we have fundamentally changed as human beings. Someone calls you out, you just say yes. Because literally, kal ho na ho, God knows what other pandemic is out there. And we're like, yeah, dude, I'll be there. Gig, yes, I'll be there. Who's playing? I know one song, cool, I'll be there. I'll find out more music on ground.
It's more
you
like
know?
the moment of being there,
Yeah.
right? Like, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
really, it's like, escaping the FOMO, right? You
Yeah.
want to make sure that you are there and was there even for that one song that you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to Roocay's point, using the comment section, we did that with Matthew as well.
Oh, you
Before
did,
he went
yeah.
into market, we went back even 6 to 12 months and commented on every single post on YouTube and Instagram, who's from India? And then everyone was replying underneath that comment. And then we gathered them and put them into a group on WhatsApp and was like, okay, we're coming to this town. Tell us what to do. Tell us where to go. We just
So
use
you
the...
involve them in the process.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Always works. And a step to that is, step two to that is like if you try and then also find artists that is, relatively like your style and then,
Exactly.
be supportive of each other and comment underneath and support each other's music.
Yeah.
Actually, Akhila, we've worked on multiple campaigns.
We have
right,
actually, yeah.
in the
We've
past.
worked together forever.
And one of our special case studies actually the love.
Yeah, like, and
case
this is when
study.
you were at Outdustry and you were handling
Yes.
marketing for him, and I think he's a very good example of an artist who invested in India, but it was not a, hey, I want new fans, I want my numbers to grow, and that's why I'm looking at India. It was very reciprocal, right? It was really engaged, and I think that's one caveat I would say to anyone who's listening, like online to this podcast later, is you can't have a transactional relationship with any kind of human being, definitely not with this community of South Asians. Because we were formerly colonized, right? So we know what it's like when people want to enter into your market and like, give me everything and like, I'll give you railroads, but mostly to just loot your country. We've been through that. So I think that's something we've really imbibed. And like the current generation of South Asians, we're not here for that. Like we see it through, and we will call it out for what it is. Yeah. And so equally, when an artist genuinely, authentically engages with the market, you get tenfold more rewards, right? And like with Love, before he even came on ground, to your example, he did invest in how do I connect with this audience digitally, right? Yeah. And I think we collaborated because I was working with Artist Originals then, and this is other artist called Pratik Kuhad, and people who listen to Pratik Kuhad could very well like Love's music, and this was our hypothesis, right? So we had Love and Troy Sivan, who I believe is Australian, right?
He is.
Yeah,
He
he
is,
is.
yeah. So they had a song together and they did a reaction video where they reacted to Pratik Kuhad's music video. And that introduced a lot of Pratik Kuhad fans to Love and Troy, and they're like, oh, who is this person who's reacting to Pratik Kuhad video? And we saw actually a huge bump in streams after that video on the platform, and we did do playlisting and things like that before, and that didn't do as well as this content piece, right? And of course, then later when he came down to India, of course, his first show was what, 2,000 capacity at Famous.
Yeah.
But he also did like a fan-only event in our office for like, I think maybe 30, 40.
It was like a super fan event of like 20 super fans.
And this is before the word super fan was the thing.
Even like.
So like the fact that, he took time to come like a little bit before and actually meet all of his fans, answer the questions, take photos with them, right? Like, because those 30 people then became real champions of this is a great person. He's genuinely a very nice person, and right? And his gig, by the way, happened on a Monday in Mumbai, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And I think there was so much last-minute FOMO created because so many people said, oh my God, who's this really nice person? And, I actually do want to make an effort to go to this gig, right? And so I think he's a great example of doing everything right. Like, create your content, invest in the market, do it over a long period of time, came down on ground, engaged with fans the way Matthew did, right? Came back for Lollapalooza, right? Continue to invest. It's not a one-time sort of an investment. And I think that's just my regular sort of spiel to everyone that treat us like nice people, and we will be nice back to you. And
It's like dating. If you don't want to end up in a situationship or get ghosted, please engage in intentional
yeah,
behavior.
that's really the takeaway. Like, don't be a dick.
Otherwise, you're going to get blocked on everyone's Discord channel.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that would be my big takeaway. But like, quick, I think last words, because I know we're almost at time. For anyone who's listening, and I know a lot of people who listen to this are folks, potentially artists, managers, who are thinking of this market now that we've explained all the various opportunities and challenges. What is the one thing that you want to share with them? And, open to all three.
It's a fun market. It is so fun to be on the ground.
Fun is honestly
It's
the most important KPI.
It really is. I will say I've toured many markets for 20 years. This was like first time into India. It felt like everyone just loves music on the ground there. And what you get out of that market is only as much as you put in, but if you put a small amount of energy into that market, you will get so much reward and fans who will be with you for hopefully 10 years. I don't know.
Jashima?
Irrespective of if you're South Asian or not, if you're from the West or not, I think for all artists and their teams, decenter expectations and recenter being curious. India is so rich. People are lovely. It is a good time.
Yes.
To Jade's point. If you can just be really curious, if you like coffee, ask people where they drink it there. Just be a normal, curious human being, digitally and physically.
Just be a normal person.
And it will be one of the best experiences of your life.
Actually, I would like to add to Jashima's point here. And probably the picture is not that rosy for the growth of South Asian music market, especially in the diasporas as well. What I'm trying to claim here is the right representation and investment, especially into the South Asian growth. We've seen the last recent report of UK coming in for the South Asian report, what they call it. Almost 73% of the people were still not able to survive on just making South Asian music. Only 27% were being able to call it as full-time musicians. And I think that's the harsh reality of the story outside as well. But it's about time. And I think the time is right, where they're investing into it with the right representation, with the right support. I think the next big music is going to be the Indian music, and we're on the cusp of it.
We're seeing it with Cat's Eye and Lara Raj, and a lot of women exist in pop that maybe don't get claimed by other South Asians, but they're metrically out succeeding and outperforming a lot of people. And the other thing I'll say is, remember that for people in the diaspora, even going back to India is often financially not feasible. So this isn't something that just non-South Asians ethnically experience. It's everyone that isn't in the subcontinent. Getting to the subcontinent takes time. Working in music full-time takes time.
Yeah.
But wow, just figure it out.
Yeah. No, I think that's a
What about you,
great
Akhila?
note.
Any final thoughts?
I think my big takeaway, I liked be a normal person. I think definitely that. But no, honestly, final thoughts is yes, it comes with challenges, but the opportunities are immense. Don't see it as a one-year sort of a project. India's not a project. Think about it. Ask yourself why, like Jashima said. Ask yourself why 3 times, and if you still feel like, yes, India is an option for me, it's not just an option, it's an important part of my strategy, and this is why it is. If you can answer that, India is going to be a market. It's going to see massive growth in the next 10 years. Subscription numbers are starting to grow, so you're going to see a massive upside if you start building that fan base right now. So invest, be consistent with it, of course, and just be nice, man. Just be nice. And that's actually our time. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all around.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on the evolution of South Asian music. Thank you so much for joining us in this 2-part journey.
We hope you're walking away with a fresh perspective on how India isn't just a thriving music scene, but also a powerful export market for global artists.
We're grateful to our guests, Jade and Jashima, for their incredible insights, and to all of you for tuning in.
Keep exploring, keep listening, and remember, the world is paying attention to South Asian music, and this is just the beginning.